right, so like I said, skipping round 2, going right to round 3. Played round 2 real bad, not worth watching. Definitely. So we have 7 spells. That's a pretty easy mulligan, even though we have a Street Wraith. This one is close. We do get a Scry, which certainly helps, especially with the Street Wraith. The issue is, like, we have no black. We have a Starman Denial that doesn't really do anything. A Death Shadow we can't turn on, and a Snapcaster Mage with both nothing real that we want to flash back. And, you know, it's basically a 3-mana spell. So definitely, like, a Sketcher. But if we find a black mana, I think we're okay. So Steam Vents on top, not what we're looking for. Is a land, but not good enough. So cycle Street Wraith, and we bank it. Just nail it. Straight up nail it. Okay. So have the blue, so get a Blood Crypt, and we get our Thoughtseize on. We see a bunch of weird cards. So my plan here is to Stubborn Denial the Smuggler's Copter. Hopefully that all works out. Kind of the issue here is that he gets a Burning Tree into Smuggler's Copter, which is kind of a beat. Because then he still gets to develop his board. So we just take the Burning Tree Emissary. And without the Emissary, and we're going to counter the Copter, the Experiment 1 is not really doing much. So that's kind of our hope here. And then we bank it again. We draw a Fatal Push. So I'm just going to main phase this. I don't know if they have, like, Blossoming Defense or whatever. Just going to get that crap out of here. Goes for the Copter, and we stub him. Alright, so far, so good, mostly. If we draw land, everything's great. Draw Serum Visions. That's some redraws. We didn't need land 3 this turn anyway. So we actually hit land 3, and then we hit Thoughtseize in another land. Pretty sure I bought him both of those. Because I'm just going to fetch anyway. I want to get this Death Shadow out there. Is only a 3/3, so it's weak to Lightning Bolt, but I think we need to start pressuring our opponent. And they draw a Bolt and kill our Death Shadow. So, womp womp. Now it is Snapcaster Mage versus Burning Tree Emissary and Gore Clan Rampagers. So, Snapcaster Mage trades with both of those by snapping a Thoughtseize, so we're just going to do that. See that they have a Stomping Ground, which I think we knew about already. And then we get to make this trade, which is pretty good because we're at 8 life, which is kind of the danger zone. And then I don't know if I'm going to crack this fetch or not. So I think waiting to cast the Serum Visions first is completely okay. And we find another Serum Visions and 2 Delve Fatties, so beautiful. Top both of those. Serum Visions to redraw. Hit Gurmy. Delve some crap. And now we have a 5/5. They have a 2/2, not a big deal. We have a 4/5, and then they're just dead. So, easy peasy. Next game, a little more interesting. As you can see, it takes a little bit longer. And yeah, we side into a decent amount of removal spells. So we can play the Hyper Aggro Death Shadow game, or we can play the removal Snapcaster game. So which fetch to use isn't really a big deal because they all get all of the dual lands, but there is 1 island and 1 swamp in the deck. My opponent's aggressive. I don't think they have Blood Moon or anything like that because they're a zoo deck, but it is possible that I want to fetch island and then mountain, so I keep 1 of each. And again, just main phase push this thing. I'm not about to walk into any crap. I fetch both to kind of thin my deck and because I have 2 blue cantrips, so I might want to have access to 2 blue on the next turn. And our opponent misses their second land drop. So it's like, all right, what does that mean? What does that mean exactly? Why would a zoo deck keep a 1 land hand? I mean, obviously they have a bunch of 1-mana cards, but it is pretty clear that they have some important stuff. And to me, especially since they fetched Temple Garden when I assume they have more red spells than white spells, it's probably because they have a Path to Exile, and then I would assume like a Burning Tree Emissary. That's just kind of my read on their hand. So start things off with Serum Visions. I think I'm just going to Fatal Push this turn. And I'm just going to use Blood Crypt to do that. And they miss a land drop again. We drop the other Serum Visions. At this point, I think I want to use the Thought Scour. And I just fetch the basic, which I like. So Thought Scour is reasonable, but now we get to see what's going on. And not only do they have Path to Exile, but they also have effectively 2 Burning Tree Emissaries because of Hidden Herbalists. So all their cards are basically the same. Like if they draw a second land, they're going to play out a bunch of stuff. So I just take the path because I'm threat light already. I have 0 threats, and they have the capability of drawing a path. I don't have a way to cover myself against that, so I'm just going to preemptively take out the path. And then if I also draw a fatty, it just like stops all of their creatures. Like they can just no longer attack me. And we Thought Scour a bunch and just end up with a handful of removal spells. We don't know if we want to use this fetch for life or not, and there's really no reason to like fetch a land tapped or whatever to thin my deck. Like, it's not a big deal. So now we have a Death Shadow. And I can play it as a 1/1 because Bloodstained Mire gives me protection from Lightning Bolt anyway. But they have another path, so they path that. I get my Swamp, and now the Bloodstained Mire is going to be used to fetch a duel for sure at some point, or not even really for sure, I guess, because I may just never use it. But Scalding Tarn does not get played because I want to hold it for Brutality. And here come the Burning Trees. So they picked up another copy of Hidden Herbalists. 2 copies of Hidden Herbalists. And boom, they're just in there. So I definitely want to save a removal spell for the Smuggler's Copter, and I think I'm going to use all my mana next turn. So I do fetch the land tapped. I also think I'm going to take a few hits, so I don't want to take too much damage. And then I use 1 Bolt, and then that gives me enough mana to use all of my spells. So since I'm going to take hits, I Brutality with both modes in case they found another path. They didn't, but they found a Bolt, so that's cool. Tarkus Command is another card that I'd be scared of. And now I'm basically going to get to Bolt an Herbalist and terminate Copter. But they don't even use the Copter. So get to pick up a land off Goblin Guide. And then the question is, like, do I use the Terminate here? And I don't think so because I can still take a few more hits. And we draw Snapcaster Mage, so it's kind of on. Not only do we get another blocker, we get another shot at trying to find a threat. Serum Vision's the best at doing that. So, like, this is another reason why maybe you should just have Serum Visions instead of Mishra's Bauble. Because of, like, how potent an engine it is with Snapcaster Mage. Like, if you ever get into a spot where you just need more action, then, you know, Serum Visions is exactly where you want to be. So, I find a Tasigur, and I could play Death Shadow land, but I do want to terminate the Smuggler's Copter, so I don't want to have to fetch away the Tasker, and the fetch would cost me 3 life. So it's like, oh, whatever. I'll just not play the Death Shadow, hold open the Terminate. And, yeah. They get to bolt my Snapcaster, but I kill their Copter, and then they hit me for 2. And then I get to play 2 Fatties. So they play a Narnum Renegade, and it's like, man, that's actually pretty good because it is effectively like another removal spell. Now, if I attack with 1 creature, they're just going to block with Renegade. If I attack with both creatures, you know, they have to block one of them, otherwise they basically die. But then I draw Kozilek's Return. So here I feel like I can milk it a little bit because I still have Tasigur that I can actually use, and all my spells are mostly good, even though they're, you know, the worst one is like Thought Scour, which allows me to cantrip again, which is fine. And then they just attack with their Renegade. And it's like, all right, well, I'll happily take that. I don't think you can kill me from 5. So we Tasigur. I've basically, like, I got enough cards in my graveyard. I don't necessarily want to put more cards in my graveyard. There's some advantage to having like a K command or another big threat, but realistically, like, this game is probably over. So I just thought scour them, and now I get to try and go for the kill. Because another happy benefit of them attacking me with Renegade is that my Death Shadow gets bigger. So I could Thought Seize them to try and, like, you know, make sure that the coast is clear or whatever, but I could just die to a Lightning Bolt, so I don't do that. Instead, I just K-return. They could bolt my Tasigur, and then I can just keep my Shadow back, and it's not a big deal. You know? I guess they would wait until I attack, but even still, like, they have to bolt this to not die, and then they have to keep their Renegade back. So maybe it is better for me to just attack with Shadow, so... Yeah, they died to the K-return. So one of the happy benefits of playing a card like this is that it just ends up being good against random creature decks, and Cedric's random zoo deck is a random creature deck.